All right, guys, we're coming in for part 3 of this little series on if someone else has shipwrecked your life. All right, I'm just going to go back a little bit. So we covered there. Paul said, "Don't even like we're gonna. There's a storm coming. This boat needs to stay here." The person in charge listened to other people, so they went out, and they're stuck in a storm that's for 2 weeks. That's so bad they can't even eat. They're so freaked out. And like there's been this drama, people trying to go and steal the lifeboat, and there's all the stuff, right? Whoever said the Bible is boring? Okay, maybe some of the Leviticus can be a little dry, but it's okay. All right, move this a little bit, get a little more shady. All right. So all of this stuff, and then Paul's like, "You should have listened to me, but it's okay." An angel came to me and said, "We'll be okay." But then people try to leave, and he's like, "Nope, it's got to be all together. We're all you leave, you die." And they're listening to him now. So then they eat. Paul took bread and gave thanks to God in front of them and broke it and began to eat. You know, what he did right there is he led by example. He's been on the same twisty turvy typhoon. Imagine going on like one of those, like you go to a fair and they're the like brides. You're just like, why everyone's like, they have to clean throw up off of it all the time because it's just, they've been on that for 2 weeks. Can't even see the sun, stars, the sky. It's just one more darker gray versus lighter gray for 2 weeks straight on the world's worst tilt-a-whirl on the ocean over water with the fear of drowning added in for an extra touch. All right. Then Paul took bread and gave thanks to God in front of them, leading by example, right there, and began to eat. There were 276 people who ate until they were filled, and they were strengthened and encouraged. So, way to go, Paul. Lead by example. Even though it's like they're starving, but it was 2 weeks without food. I don't know how many of you guys have, gone without food for a while. You get a weird thing with food in your head, it's hard to start eating when you've not been able to eat. But he led by example. He knew they needed to be nourished. Hangry had to be a huge thing on top of all of the stress. And they ate until they were filled. They didn't just take a few bites. And then they were strengthened and encouraged. After they were satisfied, they threw the grain into the sea to lighten the ship. They're like, all right, we're gonna have a last meal because we're having faith we're getting off the ship. So they even threw away their food. All right, on to Acts 28, verse 39. When daylight came, the sailors didn't recognize the land, but they noticed a cove with a sandy beach. So they decided to run the ship ashore. They cut away the anchors, leaving them in the sea, and untied the ropes holding the rudders and hoisted the foresail to the breeze to head for the beach. But they drifted onto the rocky shoals between the two depths of the sea. I mean, talk about adding insult to injury. They're like, yay, land! And they can't even get there to run their ship aground because there's a bunch of rocks who are going to destroy their ship before it can get there. All right. Yep, but they drifted into the rocky shoals between two depths of the sea, causing the ship to flounder still a distance from shore. Talk about so close yet so far away. The bow was stuck fast, jammed on the rocks, while the stern was being smashed by the pounding of the surf. They go into a lot of good detail in this. The soldiers wanted to kill all the prisoners to prevent them from escaping. And you know what? It's like you can't really blame them because who's responsible, and who knows, maybe they might have been killed. Like, they're responsible for getting these prisoners where they're supposed to go. And in their, minds, they're probably thinking that their superiors are saying, well, it's better if they die than escape. But they were so afraid. I mean, everyone's afraid. So many people, like everyone, the people on the ship, there's things to be afraid of. They're afraid of dying in the shipwreck. They're afraid of I don't even know what they won't see their families again. They're afraid of, if they do survive, what are their superiors going to do or say to them, to their family? Are they still going to, like, are they going to be, there's so much fear that these guys had to go through and deal with. Oops, sorry, kicking my tripod. Let's see here. Where are we? But the Roman officer was determined to bring Paul safely through, so he foiled their attempts. He commanded the prisoners and crew who could swim to jump overboard and swim ashore. Here's the deal. Not all of them could swim. So the rest all managed to survive by clinging to planks and broken pieces of the ship, so that everyone scrambled to the shore uninjured. Wow. Okay, I'm not going to. The next thing is Paul on the island of Malta. I might go there next. We'll see. We'll see where I feel like the Lord is speaking, or just what looks like fun, because preaching on the whole Bible is fun. It's good. So there's so many of you who have been so affected and shipwrecked by the choices of others. And it's not your fault. It's not that, well, you should have prayed more, you should have loved more, you should have submitted more, you should have had faith more, you should have just forgiven, you should have never shared your feelings, you should have never spoken up against that church leader who was lying and manipulating and was a narcissist with lots of flying monkey elders. Yep, I know you know. But in the midst of that, so you know what? Let's break this down in part number 4. All right, give me a minute.